All right, everyone. Mr. Newton, good to see you. Thank you for being here. We're so glad you're all here. Hope business, or what do you call it, member meeting was good. Members meeting. We invite you to stand this evening as we join and sing, Yes, I Will. All be seated.
Amen. Great song. Yes, I will. Just, showing up sometimes, just saying yes to God, being obedient and saying yes. If you're like me, I feel like I'm overcommitted. I say no to a lot of things, but I think sometimes just saying to God, yes, I'm going to just show up. I think so much of, I had a wise person say that parenting, like being a good father, is really about two things, presence and prayer. Just be there, be present, and pray for your kid every day. Pray, show up and pray. I think that's, it's not that hard, right? When I was at my big pastors conference I went to in April, they said, look, pastoring isn't rocket science. Preach God's word, pray for your people, pray with your people, love them, and stay for a while. If you preach, pray, love, and stay, you'll be fine. And I was like, I can do those things. That's good. I can do this. We're going to be okay. But thank you again. Yes, Bobby? I promise. Yes, I promise to stay. I promise. I love this church. I've told people no, Bobby. I've had people ask me for resumes, and I've told them no, I don't feel... That's right. 20 years. I didn't see that in the contract, but I guess in the fine print, it was at the bottom. Yeah, I'm sure it was. If Bobby says it, then it was definitely there. Yeah, that's right. 5 years in, yeah, only 15 to go, right? Whew. I'm just kidding. I am excited about the future of Woodmont. I do think our best days are ahead of us. That may not mean that we're 1,000, 1,200 people, but I think best days may not mean explosive growth either, but it may mean making deep disciples who love one another well, who encourage one another well, and who pray for each other. So we're going to do something. I told Morgan we were going to do this. She said, I'm not coming. You introverts may not enjoy this, but I think it's important to pray for one another. We talked about all the one another commandments on Thursday night at our Monday, Thursday service. And one thing we ought to be doing for one another is praying for one another. So we're going to do that now. We have some prayer concerns. If you've got a packet that are on here, Glenda Cleaver with cancer, Cora Southern. Did she have a procedure? She did. I talked to Andrew that morning. He sent me a picture, and it looked like Cora was just giving him like this look like, are you sure about this? It was really funny. I sent it to Brad, asked me for his number, and I sent it to Brad, and I said the side eye in this picture is, and if you know Andrew, he can give some side eye. Definitely his kid. Rita Higgins is having an MRI next week. She's got a host of issues. Thyroid, recovering from breast cancer, all kinds of issues. So please pray for Rita. She's got something where she feels like she's falling and she can't balance as well, and has had some bad falls that have resulted. And when she falls, her arms go to her side. So she just, whatever she hits, she hits. So it's terrifying for her. And her husband, Stanley, is not in good health either. He's basically blind, and she cares for him. So please pray for sweet Rita Higgins. Jane Bell, still recovering from a broken shoulder, but in good spirits. Murtis Owens continues in pain. She said she went to breakfast. Was that today or yesterday? It just wore her out, she said. She said she couldn't do anything else the rest of the day. Even, I think it was yesterday, she went to breakfast, and they're serving. They've been on lockdown at the Trace where she lives because of a stomach bug, not COVID, a stomach bug. And they finally let them out, so she went to she's had the stomach bug as well. So our senior adults, man, I'm telling you, it's hard. I visited Faye Ivy yesterday. Was that yesterday? Yesterday. And she is 90 years old, and it's hard, to get up and down out of a chair is difficult, and to get around. And aging, I think about what Jesus told Peter, that one day you'll grow old and you'll be led by the hand where you don't want to go, right? Is what Jesus told Peter to signify by what kind of death he was going to die. But that's true with our senior adults, and they're modeling for us how to do that with grace and how to finish the race well. So I'm proud of them. All right, so what I want you to do is get in groups of like 3 to 5. 3 to 5, and Baron, y'all can do this too. And we're finishing our encouragement talk from Barnabas, so it's pretty short teaching tonight. So 3 to 5 people, and introduce yourself, make sure you know who each other are, and then I want you to share maybe one thing that someone can pray for you about. We all have stuff we need prayer for. It could be as simple as, to be a better father, or to be a better mother, or whatever your prayer is. Just something that you would like prayer for. And then if you feel comfortable, you don't have to do this, you introverts, okay? But if you feel comfortable praying for somebody or praying for the prayer concerns on here, just take some time to go around and voice prayers. When you're done, say, in Jesus' name I pray, and I want everybody to say amen, and then another prayer to start, okay? So you know exactly when someone's done. And if you want to pray twice or 3 times, that's okay too. If something the Lord calls to your head, that's okay too. But I like when we say amen together. You know why? Because it means we agree. It means yes, Lord, let it be. Yes, verily, truly, God, this is our prayer. So in Jesus' name I pray, and then everybody say amen together, and then the next prayer start, okay? We'll start that culture here. Go and pray for about 5, 7 minutes or so. Groups of like 3 to 5-ish. Something that you can pray for each other. Introduce yourselves. Give a prayer need. Something that you can pray for each other about.
right, if everyone's done praying, we're going to continue in worship. If not, continue to pray as we sing. We invite you to stand as we sing Cornerstone.
Built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest ring, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. My hope is built. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest ring, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone. Christ alone. Sound. Oh, may I then in him be found, dressed in his righteousness alone, faultless stand before the throne.
We got those words going up there on the screen, maybe? Okay. Oh, there we go. Yet not I. That's the one. Perfect.
What gift of grace is Jesus, my Redeemer? There is no more for heaven now to give. He is my joy, my and freedom, my steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. For my life is wholly bound to His. Oh, how strange and divine! I can sing all is mine, yet not I, but through Christ in me. The night is dark, but I am not forsaken. For by my side, the Savior, He will stay. I labor on in weakness and rejoicing. For in my need, His power is displayed. To this I hold, my shepherd will defend me. Through the deepest valley He will lead. Oh, the night has been won, and I shall overcome, yet not I, but through Christ in me. No fate I dread, I know I am forgiven. The future sure, the price it has been paid. And I bled and suffered for my pardon, and He was raised to overthrow the grave. To this I hold, my sin has been defeated. Jesus now and ever is my plea. Oh, the chains are released, I can sing, I am free, yet not I, but through Christ in me. With every breath, I long to follow Jesus. And He has said that He will bring me home. And day by day, I know He will renew me until I stand with joy before the throne. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. All the glory evermore to Him. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. Yet not I, but through Christ in me. Turn your
Dear God, we thank you for this time that we can gather and praise your name. We pray that all that is in our life, all the problems, God, that we would turn our eyes away from that and towards you, Jesus. We pray this in your name. Amen. You may all be seated.
Amen. Thanks. That was beautiful. I was just telling the guys I was praying with that, Morgan decided that my teaching isn't compelling, so she's joining the choir. So, no, she was invited to join the choir, and so she's, Aaron, my wife's joining the choir. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, yeah. You accept her, Aaron? I don't know. You may, if Morgan comes back, she got kicked out. I was telling the guys I was praying with that what I wanted prayer for was, I think there's some changes that need to happen here, like in our polity and in our bylaws, and I'm not sure if I can lead that change and this kind of insecurity of, I don't know if I can be that kind of leader. And then we sang that song, Yet Not I, through Christ, but Christ through me, Christ in me. That's the one who does it. It's not about me as a leader. It's about Christ doing these things among his body. Just get out of the way and let him do his thing. And that's exciting. And that's what a word that I needed to hear. So thank you for that. And then I love Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. I grew up at a church with Ardith Harper here on the front row, and I can picture Bill Anderson singing that song, our music leader, down in the basement of a house. It was a literal house church. It was a church plant. Did it come out of Woodmont? Jim Gallery was here. Many of you know Jim. Okay. That's right, Walker Memorial in Franklin. That's right. Planted this church, and Jim was the pastor. He baptized me, and he was a minister of what, young adults here? Is that what he was? It's such a small world, isn't it? He ended up baptizing me, and it all comes back to Woodmont. It was funny today, we were at a luncheon at Brentwood Baptist Church, which was planted by Woodmont Baptist Church, and my friends from Forest Hills were there, which was a church that was planted by Woodmont Baptist Church. And I was in line with someone, and I was telling him, he was from Forest Hills. I was telling him, that Woodmont planted Brentwood. And I said, yeah, they bought that property on Franklin Road and sold it to Brentwood Baptist Church for $1. It wasn't a campus of Woodmont. It was go and be blessed. Woodmont paid for that land and sold it to them, deeded it to them, and gave it to them. And now, any given Sunday, I think they have a $28 million budget, I think, at Brentwood Baptist Church. Just amazing to see how God has used Woodmont in that way. And again, it's not any one leader here. It's Christ through the church that's done these just amazing things. Just keeps coming back to my mind about how Woodmont has been so blessed in so many ways. Just so grateful to be a part of it. All right, we're going to talk about encouragement again because we didn't finish it. There's so much good stuff that we didn't get to. I had a good talk with Laura after our encouragement. This is a long time ago because we had the Maundy Thursday service last week and Holy Weeks, but just try to remember we're talking about Barnabas, the great encourager, the powerful ministry that he had as an encourager to Paul and Silas and so many others in the early church. And we talked a lot about what encouragement means. It means to come alongside of someone in that time. And we talked about the logistics briefly at the end of encouragement. It's often a temporary relationship. It takes on a pattern like this. The encourager first sees someone with a genuine need. Laura brought up, there's so many needs. How do you know which one to meet? And that's important that, like, my wife, is a Enneagram 6. She kind of needs to be needed, sometimes. And you can spread yourself thin, right? So I think it's a matter of discernment from the Lord of picking one or two meaningful relationships that you can enter into in an encouraging way, not trying to be everyone's encourager necessarily, because you can't do that in a meaningful way. And the encourager then draws alongside the person with the goal of helping them grow, of helping them be more like Jesus. Really, we should be discipling one another. It's not my job to disciple the congregation. We all are discipling, teaching one another. And then there's sustained, faithful help that's given to that person in that need. Then the need is met by God's grace. And then either the relationship dissolves or it matures to become a friendship. A friendship, the basis for the original relationship was the need, and the need is no longer present. So now it's just a friendship. It's a mutual giving of love to one another, not an encouraging relationship. Then the encourager hopefully spots a new need elsewhere, and the cycle begins all over again. I told you this has happened in my life in many, many ways. The deacon chairs have been very much encouragements to me. That's probably the number one, but I had mentors. I told you about Robert Caldwell coming alongside of our staff and walking us through a database transfer. That was a very encouraging act that he did. We talked about, who in your world could use encouragement right now? Who is on your heart that you know could need some encouragement? I know of a couple that I need to be encouraging right now. And again, the root word in the New Testament for encourage, we think of like a pat on the back and like a, you can do it, That's not what we're talking about here. It's not just a listening ear either. It's the same word. The root for encouragement is the same root as the word for the Holy Spirit, the counselor, the paraclete, right? The parakaleo, called alongside of, parallel lines, right? The paraclete who Jesus promised, the advocate or the helper, I think the ESV says helper in John 14 and 15, 16. That's what it means. To encourage means to come alongside of someone, to come alongside of them. I think about our virtual world that we live in now. Man, there's not a lot of coming alongside, is there? When you come alongside of someone, that means, I think, it's got to have some face-to-face activity with it, right? It's got to be like, let's go get lunch, let's go get coffee, let's talk, let's meet, let's pray, let's read the Bible together in person. I think it's so important to have that meaningful, because Gus was talking earlier, he works from home and Cam's on the phone with guys and you can't read their body language. You can't read their face because it's just on the phone. And virtual meetings are fine for, convenience and that kind of thing, but we need that face-to-face encouragement. You got to come alongside, I think, physically at some point alongside. That's why we do hospital visits. We encourage them by coming alongside of them in person. Too often, the same word for encourage is also translated as exhortation a lot of times. And too often, the ministry of exhortation, when we hear exhortation, I think of like correcting, right? Admonishing, telling someone, no, that's wrong. Here's what's right. That's what I think of when I think of exhortation. But it's the same word. It means to come alongside of. Admonishing is like warning someone, like if you don't stop, you're going to go off a cliff. But look at the difference between these 4 different commands in one cool verse. 1 Thessalonians 5:14. Do we have that, Steve? 1 Thessalonians 5:14. Nope, we start in Proverbs. Okay, that's fine. What? Oh, you know how to do that? I have the actual Bible here. Hey, there we go. 1 Thessalonians 5:14. 4 commandments in here. We urge you, brothers and sisters. That's the word in Greek, is brothers and sisters. Admonish the idle. Encourage the faint-hearted. Help the weak. And here's the kicker. Be patient with them all. 4 different commands. Okay, what do these commands look like in your life? What might it look like? Admonish the idle, first off. Warn them of what will happen if they don't work. These are idle people who are, there's so many proverbs about a little folding of the hands, a little sleep, a little slumber, and poverty will come upon you, right? I think about Bobby's generation, man, they're doers. They just work, and they're busy. And Bobby's particularly a Martha, right? As we have learned from a previous character study. She is definitely not idle. But in Thessalonica, apparently some believers had actually quit working because they were convinced of the imminent return of Jesus. So they quit their jobs. Unfortunately, their choice had created a burden for the other believers who were then faced with the question of whether or not to provide them with help. Do they bail them out? Do they give them money, give them food? Paul's admonition here to admonish the idle is basically that they need to get back to work. They need to have resources to meet their own needs, so they should work. The modern application here would be a situation where a believer's convictions result in other believers having to pick up the slack. Paul's instructions here to admonish the idle are indicating that the idle believer should be confronted. We're going to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 5, where Paul tells the church in Corinth to confront this guy who's living in sin. That's the same thing here. He's telling the believers they have a responsibility to correct this one brother or sister who's idle because of their theological convictions, that they should be confronted and told to use their own resources to meet their own needs, rather than assuming, well, others will take care of me. They have to. It's the church, so they have to take care of me, and I'm going to live out my personal convictions at your expense. Second, encourage the faint-hearted. What does that mean in your life? How can you do that? It means to strengthen the weak. It means to strengthen those who are struggling. And there's a lot of people struggling in our church and in our community and in our world. Again, encouragement is not a soft shoulder to cry on, right? That's like our modern, pop psychological influence on our vocabulary. Encourage used to mean to put courage into. To encourage someone means take heart, right? Even the word comfort. What's the word in comfort? Fort. That used to mean to fortify, to strengthen. Comfort, we think of comfort as like, oh, it's going to be okay. It literally used to mean to strengthen and to make forte, strength. They mean, these words don't carry any notion of changing one's circumstances. They even don't mean making someone feel better. They literally mean to empower someone to face whatever they're going through and to keep standing. There's so many verses, I think about Ephesians 6, about the strength to stand against the onslaught, the flaming arrows of the enemy who's trying to destroy all of us, emotionally, mentally, spiritually for sure, and even physically. To encourage means those who are struggling. When I visit our senior adults, I'm trying to encourage them to finish strong, to stay faithful, to finish the race with strength. When Jude and I were coming home, Annie was like, our golden retriever was maybe 2 or 3 months old. She was fairly young. We'd just gotten her as a puppy. I guess we took her home at like 12 weeks, so she must have been maybe 5 or 6 months old. And remember that hailstorm that came through? I guess it was last fall. And like the video was so crazy. It looked like a sheet of white just went whoop across Nashville. We were on Terra Lane, just off of Harding, in between Tyne and Harding, about a quarter mile from my house. And we had just taken Annie to the vet for some shots. And Jude was in the back holding Annie, and it started to hail on us. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't see anything. And I hit my brakes, and the car actually slid. And I was like, what is happening? And it was so loud, I could have sworn it was coming through the windshield. I was like, here it goes. It's going to break my car and hurt my kid and my new dog. And so I unbuckled, and Jude was totally, he was freaked out. And Annie was scratching and clawing. He had claw marks all over his legs, but he was holding on to her. He wouldn't let her go. And I was thinking, how can I put my body over him in case this hail starts coming in through the car through the rear windshield. I'm trying to get back there, and it seemed like it lasted about 20 minutes, but I think it was only, probably a minute or less. And I said, "Are you okay, buddy? Are you okay?" I was like, "Look at me. Are you okay?" I was screaming because couldn't hear anything. He said, "I'm okay, Dad. I'm okay." And I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be okay." And I prayed out loud. I was like, "Lord, keep us safe. Be with us now in this moment. Protect us." And he said, "I'm okay, Dad." And it passed, and we got out of the car, and there was, pieces of hail like this all around us. We had piles of it at our house. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it still to this day. But in that moment, I was trying to give Jude strength. "Are you okay?" He said, "Yes." And I prayed, and it was like, "Stay with me, bud. We got this," And it's a super scary moment. But in that moment, I wanted to fortify him. That's what it means to encourage the faint-hearted. Will you leave that verse back up, Steve, that 1 Thessalonians 5:14? Help the weak. What does that mean? It means to bear with those who are struggling. A lot of times we just leave somebody in the dust. "See ya." I've been watching Top Gear a lot, and they love to leave each other. When one of their cars breaks down, they're like, "Oh, that's terrible, bye." And they leave somebody, it's funny because it's Top Gear. But in church, we don't do that. We got to bear with those who are struggling. Every year, I think Allison, did you go on the Spain trip? Did we take y'all to Spain? Yeah. When Allison and her class, for 7 years, we took our seniors, their graduates, to Spain for an amazing mission trip of teaching VBS for kids. Allison actually went back and served as a volunteer for 2 months. But on the last day of the trip, the last Saturday of the trip, we always climb this mountain. The city of Denia on the east coast of Spain is on the slope of this mountain called Montgo. And Montgo in Valenciana means mountain of God. And it's a mountain. It takes about 10 hours to climb it and come back down. There's no shade because it's Spain. There's like 2 trees on the mountain. They're like this tall on the whole mountain. And it's just brutal. It's switchbacks, and it's really steep to get up there. And every year we tell kids you don't have to go if they're not physically up for it. You know what I mean? And so what we always had is some jocks that are like, Braden in high school. They'd be like, "I'm ready to climb this thing, man." And what we did was we'd weigh them down. We'd make guys like Braden into pack mules and put 5 gallons of water on their backs, to try to slow them down and make them feel like they're contributing and they're pulling their weight, literally. And then those that were not as in good shape, we gave all their stuff to Braden and made him carry it, and we'd let the weak ones not carry anything. And be, and they were totally, and we all knew this is how it's gonna work. And we'd put the slowest person in the front. That's a Boy Scout thing, apparently. We learned that from the Eagle Scouts that were with us. But we all stayed together, and we cared for those who were struggling, right? And we always made sure the weak ones knew that the strong ones are not leaving them, but we're all in this thing together. And those who are strong carry more weight. Do it. Those who are weak, give your stuff to someone else to carry. You don't need to carry it. It's a good metaphor for the church, isn't it? If you're struggling, let someone who's strong bear your burden. If you're strong, take the burden off of your brother. We need to be sharing each other's burdens. Last, be patient with everyone. Oh man, I'm so impatient. Why would you need patience in dealing with each of these 3 types? Why would you need patience in dealing with the idle? Because they're bums. They're bumming off of everybody else. Part of me was supposed to say, "Stop it, get back to work." Why would you need patience dealing with the faint-hearted? They're causing low morale. Stop whining. Stop complaining. You're bringing everybody else down. You need to be patient with them. What about the weak? The weak are holding everybody else back. We're ready to go up this mountain. You're holding us back. That's why Paul says, be patient with all of these. God is patient with you. So let's be patient with people who are struggling. All right, so what have we learned so far about the nature and the importance of encouragement? First off, the nature of encouragement is like, what is encouragement? It's to put courage into. I like this definition. Encouragement is to enable someone to stand and fight. Encouragement is more like the scene, in the war movies where they come by and slap everybody's sword and says, "You will not die this day, let's fight for glory." That's encouragement, more so than just like, "It's gonna be okay." 2, the importance of encouragement. Why is it necessary? And what happens when encouragement is missing? The Bible tells us to encourage one another. What if we don't? Man, left to my own thoughts, I'm pretty quick to say, this is helpless. I'm a cynic by nature. I'm pretty quick to say, we're sunk. There's nothing we can do here. And I want to bail. And I've seen this a lot this year with pastors resigning. Everyone's, I know, resigning, the great resignation, right? But pastors in particular, I saw one study that said over like 60% of pastors over the last 2 years have considered finding another job. I've had friends in ministry who are now selling real estate or insurance because they don't want to be in ministry anymore, and I get it. And there's days where I'm like, man, that would be nice. That sure would be nice. Too bad I'm called and I signed a 20-year contract. So, but I think left to our own devices, we are quick to despair. Left to our own thoughts, we are quick to despair. And this is why we need one another to encourage us. And if it's missing, then we're quick to quit. If without someone to encourage us, to stay the task, to stand and fight. When Jared Hagler sent a really sweet email to the deacons and said, everybody said, oh, aren't you glad that you're not the deacon chair anymore? He said, no. He said, it's been an honor. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was great. He said, I'm not going to have as many phone calls or emails to answer, but I loved it. And I thought that was so sweet. And he said that he's quick to go to self-deprecating, self-depreciation. So all the encouragement, he said, has been very helpful to him. And I'm glad we are encouraging him. Proverbs is bursting with instruction for how to encourage. How do we do this powerful ministry of faithful support? We're going to read a few verses from Proverbs briefly. It's just some of the wealth of the insight that Proverbs has for us about encouragement. Let's think deeply about each of these. Proverbs 15:4. What does this say? A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. Gentle, the same word for gentle is healing. A healing tongue. I know I can be harsh. Sometimes Morgan will just elbow me and say, tone. I can be harsh in dealing with people instead of using a healing tone with them that's gentle. It's important with our children, right? Whew, man, this is hard with my kids. Next one, Steve. Proverbs 16:21, the wise of heart, I love that, wise of heart, is called discerning. Not smart, but discerning. And sweetness of speech increases persuasiveness. If you're trying to get someone to do something like to stand and fight, sweetness is going to be more effective than bitter words. So discern how best to persuade someone in that moment. Discern in the wisdom of your heart how best, usually it's going to be with sweet words. Proverbs 16:28. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisper separates close friends. Be honest and be upfront about the reality of what someone's going through. Don't say, oh, it'll be fine tomorrow. No, it won't. If your friend's diagnosed with cancer and you say, I'm sure the Lord will heal you tomorrow, maybe, but maybe not. Be honest. This is hard. Be upfront. Don't keep secrets. This is kind of what I was saying here too. A whisper separates close friends. Encouragement can often lead to gossip, right? It can be one of those things, well, I'm coming alongside of you because I want to be in this dirt that you're in and be a part of the dirt so I get the scoop first, right? That's not healthy either. Be honest and upfront. Proverbs 18, just a couple more. If one gives an answer before he hears, it's his folly and shame. I laugh because I do this, because I'm so quick to I got something to say, and I forget to actively, intentionally listen. I was struck, I'm reading through wisdom literature every day, just a little bit of Psalms and Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and Job, and so much of it is like, shut your mouth. So much of it's like, just listen. So much of it says, just be quiet. I'm like, I get paid to talk for a living. It's hard for me to listen. But to be wise and to encourage well, you have to really listen well. And my wife has taught me more than anybody about how to listen well. I'm still working on it. Proverbs 18:24. A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. What a great verse. To a certain degree, this is interesting, my effectiveness in personal ministry is inversely proportional to the number of relationships I'm trying to maintain. My effectiveness in personal ministry is inversely proportional to the number of relationships I'm trying to maintain. That's what this verse says. You know, Jesus had 12. He didn't have a mega church. He had 12, and one of them wanted to kill him, right? He invested deeply in 3 of those 12, right? There's an inner circle. You know, maybe you need to, that's Laura, to your question from last week about how do I encourage everybody? Don't. This verse says here, just be a friend that's closer than a brother or sister to a few. Somebody with a lot of companions. I actually got friended by a guy that I sort of know on Facebook, and I hit accept because I kind of know the guy. And he's a neat guy. Played football at University of Tennessee. Bartholomew brothers, you know Will Bartholomew, Ben Bartholomew? I'm sure you do. Yeah, I'm sure Steve knows him too. Ben Bartholomew is married to a lady whose dad was the pastor at Covenant Pres. So I said, yes, I'll accept it. And then it said he can't accept any more friend requests because he has 5,000 friends. I was like, how? I've never seen that. Have you seen that ever on Facebook? 5,000 friends. Never. I don't know anybody. He's the only one I know of who has too many friends on Facebook. How could you possibly know? I have like 1,600 or something, and I don't know like half of them. I see like birthdays come up, I'm like, who is that? Where did I meet that person? I don't know who that is. I don't know how you do it with 5,000. You can't be friends with 5,000 people. We all know that, I think. Proverbs 25:20, last one, then we'll go. Whoever sings songs to a heavy heart, that sounds nice at first. You're like, Aaron's like, yeah, cool, I can do that. Wait, just finish it. Is like one who takes off a garment on a cold day. Not good. It's not good. And like vinegar on soda, it's like those science experiments, right? It blows up. Heavy hearts don't need your song, right? You musicians out there. What he's saying is, don't be like Job's friends and try to cheer someone up who doesn't need cheering up. What they need is a friend to sit and grieve with them. What they need is a friend to weep with them, to grieve with them in spirit. Not saying, hey, it's going to be a great day tomorrow, the sun's going to be out tomorrow. That's not what they need. They need someone to just be in the ditch with them. That's what encouragement may mean going through grief. I hear people say all kinds of well-intentioned things at funerals, right? And I just cringe, I just cringe for the family. Show up, definitely. Be there for someone. Just show up and tell them you're so sorry for their loss. That's enough. That's enough, Tell them you'll be praying for them. That's great. Tell them you love them. That's great. But you don't need to fix it, and you don't need to cheer them up in that moment. All right, who can you encourage? Key takeaways. For me, the Barnabas principles in my life, if I'm going to have a powerful ministry of encouragement, I need to listen well. Men, you hear me? I need to listen better. I also need to not try to cheer people up too, because I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, and I'm positive, I'm the optimist, I always see the bright side of things. Not everybody's like that, right? And I need to be patient and compassionate with folks who are struggling and not like, come on, go faster, get with it. Those are my keys. What are your keys? What do you need to focus on if you're going to encourage well based on all these principles we talked about? Who is your encouragement plan? Who do you need to encourage in your life? Who's someone who's struggling that you know could use some encouragement where you can apply these keys in your context? Let's close with Ephesians 4:29 and 30. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths. There's a lot of corrupting talk out there. But only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. God, we thank you for encouragers in our lives who speak words of grace to us, whose words are a means of grace in our lives, whose words literally are undeserved gifts. God, we thank you for the sweet speech of encouragers. Not just the words that make us feel better, but words that give us strength to stand, give us strength to stay, give us strength to fight. God, I pray that you would help us all to enact a powerful ministry of encouragement to those who are struggling. And God, may we also receive that encouragement when we need it too. And may we follow the biblical command to encourage one another, to put courage into one another, to fortify one another with the comfort that comes from above. We pray all this in the powerful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Let's stand and sing our benediction.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
You are dismissed. Have a wonderful week.